Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Oh, I am still fighting this thing, and I'm going to do my best not to choke and cough and hack and get through this because I don't have anything prepared. I don't know how long this will take. Sometimes I do this. I sit down and I start writing and go over the news and current events of the day, and I feel uninspired. And the interesting thing is, although the lack of inspiration is certainly concerning when you're a podcast host of various sizes and shapes, no matter who you are, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing to me right now is that I am incontrovertibly happy. Things just seem to be going well. The wife, the kids, the friends, the show, and everything just seems to be doing well. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it isn't. And when it isn't, what do? Do you just sit around and wait for the good time to come back? Or is there a way to look at life and approach life in a different way? I don't know. Maybe it's the existentialist in me, but we're going to cover it, at least try to, and keep it to a show that doesn't take 4 hours, 4 days, or 4 weeks, or 4 months. Because I don't have all the answers, but I do have an idea and I want to share it with you, and it just might make your day a little brighter. We'll talk about the sodium glow in just a minute, 15 seconds actually, right after this.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss.
Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. The sodium glow. What is it? Well, it was a concept, and I heard it in a Sting song at one point, and obviously Sting from the Police is one of the most prolific writers, I believe, in music history. Alex Lifeson, in my opinion, was the best, but Sting was very prolific at writing and putting things into context that you could understand with high-level thought, and adding it to some whimsical tune that made your foot tap. And when I think about the sodium glow, he talks about the sodium lights. And I came up with this idea with sodium glow in regards to the street lights when we were kids. And the reason why I'm specifically talking to this generation, it can translate to other generations, but I think this generation will understand that there was a time when Kennedy was taken away for the previous generation that precluded ours, where their faith in the government or faith in the planet and all things good dwindled or deteriorated. And it's hard for me to pinpoint when that cynicism and derision entered my life, because I was always a jovial and happy lad, I guess you would say. And the time that I could pinpoint that was the most prominent in my life was the change in the sodium glow. And this photo for my podcast listeners is a series of lights going down a road, obviously really dark. Looks like a summer evening, and there's a child in the middle of the road, and that child reflects who I am. And that light changed. I remember it vividly. We would go out in front of our house, we'd play guns, and the entire neighborhood, 20, 30, 40 kids would get together. And my dad would referee as we would pretend to be the army in the middle of the night and make our teams and play guns in the neighborhood or play football under the white lights, the bright illuminated street lights. And somebody had an idea in California that the cost of these lights were putting an amazing stress on the power grid of California. So, as most people do in government, they decide to complicate things. And the solution wasn't to find a sustainable energy source or possibly come up with an alternative light that made sense. Like, although in the future, LED or a halogen type light, whatever it may be, something, a CFL type bulb, although these technologies were being flirted with, really you had a choice between incandescent lighting and fluorescent lighting. And fluorescent was horrendous and still is today with its horrible flicker. I didn't bring this up to get into the finer points of the wavelengths of light, but the decision was made to change the moonlit glow of white lighting that caressed our neighborhoods and replace it with a god-awful orange exploding lantern of putrid color on our streets. It created a noxious glow, something that was toxic almost. This marmalade, drab, life-sucking color of the lights of the sodium glow. Things changed. The baseball or the football was harder to see. You didn't have depth perception. All of it just seemed to be prosthetic and fake, and what was once natural and soothing became abrasive and corrosive. It wasn't the same for any of us. We all agreed. I remember my parents going to town halls and asking them to replace the lights and put them back. And we would see the mile up the long road of Neath Street in California. And every night the crane would come in and each light would change. And you would slowly see this virus, this multiplying bacteria of orange light replacing the beautiful light. And we would continue to move down the street to other neighborhoods where we never would play and go to somebody else's house where they still had white light. And we held on and we clung to this afterthought of, if we could just continue to move forward, we would escape the orange glow. And alas, they started working on the other end of the street, and it was just a matter of time, a matter of weeks before all of our neighborhoods had the orange glow. To me, this is the time in life when things changed, when the people were no longer important, but the collective, the individual, was no longer important. That little boy standing in the street was no longer at the forethought or the front of people's minds. And to me, that is when I maybe just felt like life changed. People became more cynical. The kids that were the ones you grew up with and could trust, and you would have blood brothers or swear bonds to of fealty to each other, became egocentric or cruel or bullies. Maybe your mom and dad fought a little bit more. Maybe the news wasn't as focused on the things that drove people together, but started to separate them and move them apart. And the Sodium Glow was going to be the name of a company of mine that did photography, and it just never panned out. But it probably in the future will be the title of a book, The Sodium Glow. But when I look at it now and having that introspective moment of happiness, I realize something. Instead of looking at those lights as a turning point in my life of negativity, maybe it helped me understand that there is a different path or a way to look at something slightly different. One of my favorite movies is Dead Poets Society, and I always love the moment when they stand on the desk and say, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." But slightly less known is an exercise of each boy walking up and standing on the desk and looking at things from a different perspective, seeing them from almost a different set of eyes, an embodiment or out-of-body experience. Seeing it from a different perspective doesn't necessarily change what's happening, but certainly change your perception of what's happening. And it always allowed me, when I would think about Dead Poets Society, to see things in a different way, to try to find the good in any situation, and try to wrap my mind and my mind's eye about what could be the possible outcome of what's happening. And when I attempted to do this, a couple of things happened. One is that I would see from that perspective, and I would begin down the road of trying to assume positive intent and ultimately get dragged back down to where my feet were on terra firma just a few seconds before. And what I came to realize was the problems that I was having in life had nothing to do with the external stimuli. It had everything to do with how I perceive things, and that I would not allow myself to trust in something bigger than me. When I talked about this with a good friend of mine, somebody who was a fierce mentor in my life, my uncle, as he sat and smoked a cigar, and he tried to reach for a lighter that was non-existent. He had hundreds all around the house and on the patio where we were. I wound up buying him one for his birthday. And of course, I was of meager means at the point, but it was important to me to get him a beautiful lighter. And little did I know, a beautiful cigar lighter is hundreds of dollars, and a shitty one is 15 to 20. But to me, at that time, that was what I had. And as he reached across the table and tried to light it with his crappy lighter, I saw him struggling with it. And the one I bought him, and it was silver, two-toned, brushed metal, and shiny, embossed metal, silver in color. And he navigated this damn thing, and it would not light. And I know he wanted it to. And he wasn't a man of compassion for people's feelings, but he was always present about how he made people feel, if that makes sense. And as he continued to try to light this damn thing, I could see his frustration, but he didn't want to hurt my feelings. And eventually the Uncle Randy that I knew came in, and he just said, "This effing thing," and threw it down and found another and lit it. But when I talked to him about the sodium glow and the change, and I asked him about Kennedy because he was an avid and lover of history, specifically the Kennedy assassination, he was obsessed with it. And not obsessed in a cloak conspiracy and mad scientist lab coat kind of way, but one of purpose, trying to find his way down the path to make it make sense, as he would change his perspective often and try to see it from a different angle and a different light so he could solve that great mystery, the one that escaped him, that was unbeknownst to him. I simply asked him what he thought about the sodium glow and my interpretation of when it kind of was lost for my generation. And he stopped and he put his cigar down, and it's amazing. I always saw him light it, but I never saw him smoke it for some reason, and I can never make that mental image. But he simply said, "I look at it differently than that. I don't consider it to be a bad thing. I consider, when we ask ourselves the question, does it all really matter? What we do in life echoes through eternity." I mean, we've all heard that saying. And we would assume that eternity would be, hopefully, with God, in paradise, in heaven, in an eternal life of happiness and free of pain and sin and loss and sorrow. But he said, that's deeper than that when you ask yourself the question, does it matter? When we asked that question, his answer was yes. Of course it matters. And instead of seeing the lights as an obstruction, I see the lights as each light going down the street is an individual person. And one light can't solve anything. You can put one light in the darkness and it would permeate nothing. Just a very small space of sanctuary for way too many people. But when you line the lights up systematically, horizontally, vertically, along a path, each person lights the other person's way. And each of us give off a certain amount of light. And if we decide to turn that light off, you're losing the path not for yourself, but everyone else on the path, on their own journey. I want you to think about that for a second. What happens when you turn off your light? What happens when you don't allow your light to shine on others? So although from an existential standpoint and throughout eternity, it may not have a lasting impact, but if everything we do in life echoes through eternity, then are we not only doing a disservice to our souls, but the souls around us if we don't help with our light, their light to shine? My uncle was a very smart man, and I miss him dearly. And it's hard for me to talk about him because I'm very happy and I don't want to get sad. But I want to take it a step further, and I want to see it through to the end of what he was trying to say. Because I know there's people hurting right now. This is an incredibly difficult time for people during the holiday season and veterans and friends. And we owe them to shine a light. So I will try to put it in a simplistic way as I'm stuffy and my throat is starting to itch and I can't breathe. As I was driving in a car with my wife, my son, my daughter, and her friend, who happens to be Jewish, she was basking in the glow of a beautiful concert that we had. And as we were driving, yes, the sodium glow was breaking its way through the car window. And she was talking about a boy. And she was talking about how she made choices in life and to take classes that he took. And how he changed his class after they broke up from their major investment of 2 weeks with each other. She was remiss and saddened. And I just simply looked at her in the back seat and I said, "Kiddo, can I give you some advice?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "In 5 years, are you going to be worried about the chorus versus band conundrum that you're in? Are you going to be worried about this boy, Jimmy, in any way, shape, or form?" And she said, "No. In 5 years, I don't think I'll care at all." And I simply said to her, "Then why care now?" And you could see the calm wash over her as she goes, "That's a really good point." And I could see it click for her. You see, because there's other people out there who are trying to take your light. There are other people who have resigned to the fact that they no longer want to shine. And they'll try to do whatever they can to dampen the illumination that you provide to others. And I would ask that you take a moment and look at all the stimuli coming in, good, bad, and indifferent. And is it helping you shine? Is it helping you be a better person? Is it helping guiding you and others on this path that we go through life? Because the truth is, maybe it doesn't matter to us as individuals until we get to some place of eternity, whether that's rest or what's beyond. But it damn well matters to the people around us. When it comes to your life, taking it, ending it, putting your light out, I will say this with absolutely no hesitation. I have lost countless friends to suicide. I've lost countless friends to PTS and traumatic brain injury, anxiety, depression, who have lost the will to shine. And the only thing I can tell you is that you're looking inward for the answer. And dare I say, you might be the problem. Is that you need someone else's light to help you guide the way. And you need to allow them to do that. Because the pain you feel, the emptiness, the hollowed out insides, the empty crevice of the cavity that is your heart. I know this feeling, and so do so many others. We found our way through it by allowing others to illuminate our life until we could get our light stronger, more powerful, more substantive. If you decide to take your life and you decide to end it, I will tell you simply that that pain does not go. It's very similar to matter. You can't destroy matter. All the matter in the universe is here as it is. There will be no more. There will be no less. Everything around us is here. And it certainly can't be destroyed. It can change its form. It can move from a solid or to a gas or to a liquid. But it will never change, and it will never disappear. The same is true for pain. And if you decide to take your life, it doesn't go anywhere. It just transfers form, and it moves where your light once was. And unfortunately, it's inherited somewhere else. The people around you love you. They care about you. They may say things in anger. They may let you down. They may do things that ultimately disappoint you. But everybody has somebody. I would encourage you not to listen to my advice if you're the person who is hurting, because that doesn't work. You reaching out is very few and far between, I've learned. I'm talking to the people who are watching that light go out. You have the ability to give more. You have the ability to crank it up 10, 20% and reach out to that person and check on them to make sure they're okay. You know where they're at in life. So I would ask, if you're a fellow military, you're a parent, you're a brother, sister, grandparent, whatever it is, reach out to somebody whose light is unable to shine right now. And I promise you, it will make a difference. It'll make your path easier. The answers will come to you if they continue to shine. Folks, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking a moment and listening to me ramble. I hope you take something from this that is meaningful. And if you don't, change your perspective. Maybe you will see something different. Tonight, we probably will not be on live. My voice is gone, but I appreciate it if you would stop by the Don't Unfriend Me show at thedumbshow.com. You can pick up a hat or shirt. You can also join us in helping everyone connect with the Veteran Crisis Hotline who needs it. You just simply dial or text 988 and the number 1, and you will receive free of charge help if you ask for it. Thanks so much for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. God bless, and take care of each other, especially now. Good night.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.